Well, hello everybody. This is Douglas Allen Frazier with Cast to the Other Side. It is Monday, October the 31st. You know, the other day when I finished up, I think it was on, yes, it was yesterday on the 30th, I mentioned the possibility of interjecting something about Halloween. I'm not going to do that. I really prayed about sharing Proverbs 31 as it should be shared, and that's what I'm going to do. Halloween is a totally different issue. It should be undertaken, and perhaps I will take that up on a separate item and share it with you, some thoughts on Halloween. But let's look at Proverbs 31. I'm not going to read through the information that was actually provided in the devotional. It was really a personal testimony, and it is a beautiful testimony, and it is a testimony of how the woman that wrote this particular item, how Proverbs 31 related to her and what difference it made in her life, particularly one verse. I'm going to share with you from the beginning, perhaps, of what is Proverbs 31 trying to do. I believe it is trying to do two things. First of all, when you look at the beginning of Proverbs 31, it says this in verse 1. These are the sayings of King Lemuel, an oracle that his mother taught him. In other words, this was a word that was taught by this king's mother for his understanding, to give him some wisdom about his future, particularly in determining what type of wife should he be looking for. Let's see what it says. O my son, O son of my womb, O son of my promises, do not spend your strength on women, on those who ruin kings. She was giving him some wisdom and understanding. In other words, don't waste your time on women that aren't going to do you any good. They're not going to be good for you. There's other proverbs where we can deal with that same issue. But here is a mother speaking to her son. In verse 4. And it is not for kings, O Lemuel, to guzzle wine. So in other words, she's giving him some verses or thoughts on the problem perhaps of drinking too much. Now, he says this. We're going to go basically through verse by verse and look at it that way. But in verse 8, she says this. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. Ensure justice for those who are perishing. Yes, speak up for the poor and helpless and see that they get justice. In other words, this mother wants her son to understand that justice and helping the poor and the helpless is something that he must take to heart. Now, let's start looking at her suggestions and wisdom for choosing a wife. Now, I'm also going to flip this for all of the ladies that are watching. These are characteristics that are basically saying these are the characteristics of a really noble woman, a virtuous woman, a righteous woman. So we're going to go through those, and I want you to keep that in mind. But as she speaks to her son, and starting in verse 10, She says, who can find a virtuous and capable wife? She is worth more than precious rubies. You get that, ladies? You are totally valuable. Her husband can trust her, and she will greatly enrich his life. She will not hinder him, but help him all her life. My goodness, I've been married twice. The first one was, well, let's put it this way, it turned out to be a mistake. But I have a wonderful wife today who is a virtuous wife, a capable wife. She is more precious to me than rubies, gold, or silver. And I place all of my trust in her. It took me a while to get it right. And I hope I believe she would say good things about me also. I believe that. I know her well enough. We will be celebrating our 49th anniversary in December. Now, this is what this woman does. She finds wool and flax and busily spins it. She is like a merchant ship. She brings food from afar. She gets up before dawn to prepare breakfast for her household and plan the day's work for her servant girls. She goes out to inspect a field and buys it. With her earnings, she plants a vineyard. So in other words, his mother, King Lemuel's mother, is saying, find a woman that's basically a businesswoman, an entrepreneur, and not only just a businesswoman and entrepreneur, but she runs her whole household. She doesn't leave everything to somebody else. She is involved. She is energetic and strong, a hard worker. She watches for bargains. Get that, guys? A wife looking for bargains. Her lights burn late into the night. Her hands are busy spinning thread, her fingers twisting fiber. And you know, this might be a woman that has a in-home business. There's all sorts of in-home businesses that are available, or even internet type of practices, or working at home on the internet. Both of my daughters work at home quite often on the internet, and they spend sometimes just regular office hours, but sometimes late until the night to get done what needs to be done. She extends a helping hand to the poor and opens her arms to the needy. This is a woman who has a heart for people. And I'll put it this way, a woman that has a heart for you as the husband should also have a heart for other people. Not to get overwhelmed and overburdened, but if she sees a need within her community, a service project, something at the local church, or maybe she just knows of a neighbor that needs something. Recently, our neighbor has been dealing with some illness factors, and my wife took her over some food one day and just make sure that she was okay. This wise wife, this wise woman has no fear of winter for her household because she has all of them with warm clothes. In other words, she's made sure that all of the clothing issues, whether it's winter or summer, you know, you need clothing that fits the season. She makes belted linen garments and sashes to sell to merchants. Again, I'm saying this woman is an entrepreneur. What a great thing it is. And considering all of the issues we see of raising children these days, it's becoming more important that our children are going to be educated at home, with a stay-at-home mom educating her children. This is becoming something that is really coming to the forefront. My wife did that for a while we were stationed in Alaska. In fact, she helped develop a homeschooling network where the kids that were being homeschooled could get together and hang out together and enjoy projects together. It's a great thing. I have a young man that used to be our neighbor who is now going to TCU on a scholarship. His mother didn't think that she was capable of homeschooling her son. But I'll tell you what, this young man is just absolutely awesome, and his mother did a great job. In verse 25, it says, "She is clothed with strength and dignity, and she laughs with no fear of the future." In other words, this woman is grounded. She knows where she's going. My goodness, men, this is the type of woman that we want side by side, and we want to make sure that we support her. We want to make sure that, as Paul later writes, that we treat her, our wife, just as Jesus treated the church. In other words, he laid down his life for us. Men, we need to be willing to lay down our very lives if it would take to safeguard our wife and our children. We are to give them honor, and our wives are to give us respect. Verse 28, her children stand and bless her. Her husband praises her. There are many virtuous and capable women in the world, but you surpass them all. The Queen Mother is speaking to her son, of saying, this is the woman you want to look for. This is the type of woman you want to be your wife. This is the type of woman that you want to be the mother of your children. She is a very precious commodity, not in the sense of something you buy and sell, but something that is so precious you don't want to let it go. You want to keep it. Now, the last verse says this. The last two verses. Charm is deceptive, and beauty does not last. But a woman who fears the Lord will be greatly praised. Guys, let's face it. We can marry the most gorgeous woman in the world. But as age takes its toll, that earthly beauty changes with the grace that that woman develops as she gets older. I look at my wife. She's a beautiful woman today. She's also 70 years old. When we first married, she was like 21 years old. So, you know, over the years, there's been a change in her physical appearance, but she is actually more beautiful to me today than the day that I first laid eyes on her in my ROTC class that we were taking together at Angelo State University in Texas. And finally, husbands and wives, listen up, because this is important. Reward her for all she has done. And I would also add, reward her for all that she has become. And let her deeds publicly declare her praise. In other words, men, we need to praise our wives in whatever appropriate setting, or just coming home and say, honey, Thank you for what you do in our house. Thank you for all the things that you do to keep our house and our life running smoothly. Thank you for all you've done for the business that you've developed, how you've increased our profitability. So I'm just going to close with this. This is a little bit different, but I'll tell you what, in this case, when you find this woman, you don't want to cast to the other side. Ever. You don't want to cast to the other side. You want to cherish this woman for the rest of your lives together. So God bless you all. We will see you again tomorrow, the 1st of November, and we will begin a new devotional series tomorrow. So until then, this is Douglas Allen Frazier just saying God bless you all. Remember, this is the day that the Lord has made. He's made it for you and for me, for our wives, our children, our cities, our states, our nations, and the world. We'll see you tomorrow.